Subscribe Kona, and we're here to give you guys a panel discussion. I'm moving to the Big Island of Hawaii. On my left, I have Eric Ziemelis.
Julie's husband.
Yeah. And on my right, I have Lance Owens. And Lance, as you might know, helps with the real estate. And Eric does referral real estate. And I'm your resident blogger. And, we need a light. And we're pulling this out from our lanai. And the rain has started behind us, so we will do our best to talk as loudly
It is loud.
as
it is starting to come down with gusto.
Yes. So right now it is actually October, the day before Ironman. When you guys see this later, and the town is abuzz, and it's actually a nice time for these guys to get a little rain. So sorry for the ambient
And what did
noise.
you call it, Lance, today? The Hunter's Moon?
Hunter's Moon, I saw in the news tonight.
Yeah.
Or this
Yeah.
morning at breakfast. Yeah, Hunter's Moon. So it's the night before the full moon.
There you go. So the Ironmen are not out there running in the dark. So what we're going to talk about a little bit about is I get a lot of questions, you guys, about moving to Hawaii. So I've brought my experts here, and we're going to hit a couple key elements. One is a lot of people are saying when you're actually thinking about packing your stuff up and moving here, what's the best way to go? That's one. Second of all, about your cars. Should you leave it back on the mainland, or should you actually buy something here on the island? And also, people are coming here to get a recon mission about where they think they want to live on the island. So I'm going to talk to these guys a little bit about how to find your perfect lifestyle. So let's start with moving to Hawaii when you first think that, wow, I got to start moving my stuff. So you guys, what do you guys think about containers and best ways to get your stuff over here? Eric?
It depends on what you want to do. A container is great if you have an entire household of antiques and things that you love, and you've got everything situated. You buy a container, you put them all in there, you ship it over, it's here. Your life goes from on the mainland and comes to here and is perfectly the same. That would be the basic one. It can be expensive. I've heard up to $10,000 or more to do a container, from depending on where you are and how all the details of who packs it and all those kinds of things. So that's the easiest way, but it's an expensive way. So then the other question is, how much furniture do you bring? Do you bring lots of furniture, or is it easier to shed most of the furniture and replace it here? Because we've been able to find furniture at a fairly reasonable price here. If it's used, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that move, so they have to get rid of their furniture before they leave the island, anyways. So it's kind of a toss-up that if you don't mind, maybe shedding some of your furniture there and rebuying it here, it might be a better way to do it.
Right. Lance, what do you think?
I'm going to chime in on that real quick. I think a big thing that people need to realize is you're moving into typically a lot smaller square footage. So think about it. Measure out some of these rooms and look at it, because so often people are coming from 2,600 to 3,500 square feet on the mainland, and that's a mansion here. At $350, $550. Depends on what the property is. At $550 a square foot for a property, you're going to live in a lot smaller house.
Right.
So
and also some of the question is your furniture going to fit style-wise in here too? I mean, your big Victorian couch might not be as might not work as well here on the island
Right.
as it does.
Yeah, we have a friend that moved here, and we looked into their living room, and all their furniture was black and silver, and
very stylish.
very stylish, but that's not exactly tropical.
Yeah.
And then the big thing too is that we see so much bamboo furniture here, and people. And my wife's like, I'm not getting any bamboo. I'm over it. But if you don't, what you got to think about those big Victorian chairs and those things that are big and bulky. You don't get the breeze blowing through. You don't have air conditioning and heating here, so you need a breeze.
Yeah,
so
and black leather is definitely out.
Yeah, don't bring your leather couches. Don't.
You
You'll
get
sweat.
big bulky couch and big bulky chairs that don't let the air flow.
Wait, and a side note on that, even your car with the leather interior, you know what I mean? You think leather's great, but until you get here, it's just not very pleasant.
And you
at all.
become a little. You're sitting in your own pool of sweat. So.
I like my leather too. They're air conditioned. So.
There we go. So we've mentioned this in another video, but Eric and I also had to move just a container after we moved most of our stuff over, and we used Honolulu shipping, Honolulu freight.
We did freight service is what we did instead, and it was per pound is what it was, and the cheapest way to do it was that we loaded it on a pallet, and then they wrapped it. And we have a video for that too, that maybe we could link on.
Yeah, we can link for that too.
But that was it's a very cheap way to go for what it is. About $10 a cubic foot for us to go from Oakland to here. but we picked it up at the other side here and took it home as well. So there was no delivery from anybody except on the boat. But it is a way to do it, and it is quite efficient. So there are some cheaper ways to ship besides just the container or the pod or the other things that go along with it.
Right. And then what came out today was somebody said, I'm moving here in a week. What should I leave behind? Right? And he says...
Everything.
And why do you say everything?
So often people get here and the clothes aren't in style here. It's a totally different world. You know, it's flip flops and shorts and aloha shirts. It's not
and
button up.
dresses.
You know, with t-shirts underneath and long sleeve and the collars. I mean, you're gonna realize you bring a ton of stuff here, and people just die for some kind of event where you have to dress nice here because it never happens. and so when it happens, you're like, oh, I got these 15 shirts I brought with me from the mainland. Which am I going to wear? And it's like, oh, they're all moldy and they're stained from the humidity in the air. I had them on steel hangers and they're rusty, or bugs, made a home in my white shirts. And
And women, I'm telling you, now that I live in elevation, and elevation to me is only 800 feet. It gets worse above. That I pulled out some high heels I haven't pulled out for a couple months, and they were covered in mold. So that's another thing, too, that if you have things that are made out of almost any type of fabric and you're living in elevation, the humidity is going to eat them up. So same things with leather jackets, with like things that you are going to stick in the back of your closet to hold on to. That stuff is going to capture moisture.
So when we came over the first time in 2005, and recently, too, we literally came over with 8 suitcases because that's how many you could take on the plane without. At that time, it wasn't a cost with it. And it worked out fairly well. I mean, we were able to acquire furniture. We did ship our car. We'll get to cars in just a minute. But in general, it was just, with just a few things, it was amazing how well it worked out. And how many things that you think you need on the mainland, you really don't. And here, there's not that. You don't have that many clothing. It's not like you need all kinds of stuff. There's only a few things to wear.
Bring like one jacket to go to Mauna Kea, right? Yeah.
Well, and don't forget, you're probably going to go back and visit friends and family for Christmas or Thanksgiving. So do keep a couple pieces of warm gear.
Yeah.
I have to laugh. The nice clothing that I have for that is getting a little. They don't get any wear here, right? So you're like, oh, I'll pull out my nice shirt again. Well, now it's 5-10 years old, but
that's it. So you seal it. Don't hang it in your closet.
Seal it.
In those vacuum pack seals, the vacuum cleaner thing.
Yeah, yes, covered.
Yeah. Do that. Shove it away until you're going back.
Yeah. And let's talk about some cars, because I know you guys are a lot of questions always come up with, should I buy a car on the island or bring the one I have? So let's start with Lance on this one. What do you think?
It's funny because we got all different views. You're going to have to see what one fits for you. So I've been here 34 years now, so I've been through lots of cars, and with my wife, our last couple of trucks that we bought, I'm a big believer in buying local. I'll pay more, I'll buy it locally, and I'll do that. I'll pay more to a point, because we need to support our local economy. But it was at the point where I found my vehicles for about $5,000 cheaper on the mainland. And at the end of the day, like I found one in Texas, it was $800 to have it trucked to San Diego, $1,300 to have it shipped from San Diego to Hilo. So I'm into it 21, and I saved approximately $5,000. So I'm into it good, and I'm willing to pay the dealer the extra $2,000 that he pays to bring things in. So, by the way, when it's a new car, they don't pay to ship it in. So make sure you're aware of that.
What?
Yeah, the dealership, the factory sells them to all the dealers at the same price.
Really?
Yeah. So if it's a brand new car, they're not paying to ship it in. But if we used to, when I worked at the car dealership, we were bringing in a lot of trucks from Canada. Remember when the dollar was different? Yeah, we're a lot stronger than Canada. This is probably 15 years ago, and we were bringing in trucks like crazy from Canada and converting them to U.S. miles, and the warranties were good here and everything else. So that's my take. So it depends on what you want. Toyotas get a premium here. So
Trucks.
Yeah, you're not going to get a Toyota cheap.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it at
And
that.
also, just so you guys know too, that Toyota trucks, a certain make and model, are
Yes.
the number one stolen vehicle on
Yes,
this island.
2006 to 2000. No, excuse me, 1996 to 2005, roughly, because they don't have the correct key. Let me put it. They don't have electronic key to stop theft. So they're quite easy to steal. So and because they're everybody drives a Toyota truck here, so there is a large market for resale parts on that. So those are the ones you have to definitely be careful
Just
of.
gonna tell you.
But at the same time, used Toyotas they do cost a premium, but at the same time they also last really well. And if you buy one, if you bring it over, then that's the best car because then you've got you'll be able to sell it at a high price later on down the road. And everybody works on Toyotas, and there's always plenty of parts here, which is kind of one of the other issues is that you need to, if you're going to bring a car over, you need to choose on, is it a car that, number one, is it reliable? Because if it breaks down and you have issues, it could be a really big thing. And the other question is it, well, what make is it? I mean, you wouldn't, I know a guy that brought over a Discovery, what was
Land
it?
Rover?
Land Rover
Yeah.
Discovery, and it broke down, and it took them a month to get a part for it.
Yeah.
So and that's the other problem with that.
Yeah, look at where you're going to live and what dealerships, because we don't even have a Chevy dealership on this side of the island.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I bought a GMC truck and my fingers are crossed.
it's new though; it should be all right for a little while.
I say a prayer every
Yeah.
night, but it's but yeah, that was a risk taker. So I see people move here with with Lexuses and things like that, and let's say Infinity and it's not easy getting it work done.
Yeah. What about Tesla? I've seen some Teslas here.
Teslas, they're gambling the same thing.
Same thing,
They
okay.
might have to ship it.
I heard that they ship them to
Yeah.
Wahoo to get
Oh,
them
so
fixed.
you have to get it
so
fixed,
yeah,
you gotta
so
ship
just for
Yeah.
at least the last person, they might have changed that, but we do not have a Tesla dealership here on the island.
Yeah, and there is a European Auto Care Center here that just got opened up a couple years ago. There's we had a friend that brought over a what was that? What was that big old monster truck that she had?
Hummer?
A Lincoln.
It was a Lincoln- a
yeah,
Lincoln-
Explorer.
Explorer. Yeah, and so she had some
Oh
problems.
no, it wasn't a Lincoln Explorer, but it was based on
The
an Explorer.
Navigator.
A
The Navigator.
The Navigator.
Yeah, and she had a problem getting that hauled around here. But Kaylin has a question.
So another person said another consideration of cars is to pick one that is commonly available on the island or getting service for it can be difficult and costly and time consuming.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, Honda. I got one of those as a lease, and they're great. They call me and say, come on in. We're giving you your free, oil change, and they're nice, and I like them, and
Yeah, and Big Island Toyota. Those are the two that are really good.
A
Yeah.
little
Who else?
unknown fact, real quick too about Toyota. So this goes back probably 30, 40 years ago, even longer than that. I'm sorry, but Toyota came into Hawaii and did Hawaii as a test market and made a distributorship here for Toyota. And then it went well with the Americans, so they moved to the mainland. They started selling on the mainland. They never took away the distributorship, and I guess there's some federal laws that protect distributorship. So when you order a Toyota part, it's coming from, they're ordering it from Japan or from the warehouses on the mainland. They're not like any other dealer in the mainland can switch between dealers and trade parts, or they can find one locally and get it, or from another dealer across the state line or something. That can't happen here. They order it, and they used to only order once a week.
Oh,
So they would get all the orders together and place their order to Japan on Friday, and that was it. So if your car broke down on Monday, the part didn't
It's a
even get
long
ordered
day.
till Friday. Thank goodness they're pretty dependable and they don't break down much.
yeah, that's true. They're dependable. But there are people here. The dealerships offer loaner cars.
Yes.
Right. So
If you buy it here, if you
Yeah.
buy it from
if you buy, okay, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's,
That's
an
the
incentive
kick-ass.
to buy it here.
Okay.
And then I guess one more comment on cars before we move on is also a question on if you have a car and you really like it and it's been doing well for you in the mainland, maybe you should bring it over. And it's probably cheaper because you already own it and it's one less thing you have to stress about. Because we looked at this one time, when we were coming over, we decided, okay, we're going to sell our car and then buy another one. And that's a whole stress in itself trying to find it. It's particularly used cars. New cars a little easier. But can you sell it in time and can you buy a new one? So if you say, okay, I'm going to bring my used car over, then I guess the other question is, what it's considering it at minimum of $1,100 to $2,000 to ship it over, depending where you are in the United States. Is it how many miles are on it, and am I going to get enough? Is it going to last for a few years before I have any trouble with it? And that's kind of another question that you should ask.
Right, because I don't know this, you guys might know. If you have brought over a car here that there is no dealership for, what's the resale value on that on this island then?
Yeah.
People know that they can't if they buy it from you, there's going to be a problem, right?
Yeah.
So you have just tanked the value of that car,
Yeah.
right?
There's no
Yeah.
Audi dealers. There's no Volkswagen dealers. There's
No Porsche,
no
right.
Porsche, no Land Rover,
Yeah.
no Ferrari. They got the stuff in Honolulu, and the dealerships will sometimes fly over a mechanic once a month for that thing, but they're going to prioritize with clients that bought from them. So your
And the
chance,
price that goes with it, and it doesn't come free to have them
Right.
come over here. On top of that,
Right.
there's been several times I've had the mechanics come over, and it's always like, whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So-
it's almost like doctors.
Yeah.
So okay, so that unless there's any questions about cars, okay, moving on. So now we're going to talk about a little bit about when people come and they want to do their recon mission about driving around the island and figuring out where it is that they want to live. I want to ask these guys, and especially Lance, because he's been here for 34 years. But if you are watching this, there's probably a good chance that you actually want to live in West Hawaii. But if not, let's chat a little bit about what happens when you come here and you don't really have an idea of where you want to live on this island. What's the story? I mean, how do you figure it out?
I'll try to keep this brief, but when
Yeah.
we first moved here from Oahu, so I moved to Oahu 34 years ago, and I moved to the Big Island 19 years ago. And we were used to commuting and sitting in traffic for 45 minutes to get from the windward side of Oahu to Honolulu. And so we drove 45 minutes out every direction. It said work with us. So that made Waimea, that made Waikoloa, and that made Captain Cook. And we were priced out of living in Kona. We couldn't afford to live in Kona, so we had to do that out. And we got saving 50 to 100 grand by going out to those areas.
Mm-hmm.
We actually had offers in on things out in Waikoloa, and I sat down at the end of the day and I said, it's a 45-minute drive here and a 45-minute drive home. That's an hour and a half every day. At the end of the month, I'm working an extra 40-hour week just driving.
For the driving.
So I said, and then I took the salary I was making, and I kind of did the math. I said, well, I can afford a $50,000 higher home here. So I got a little bit less home than I did over there for, a significant amount more. But by the time I broke it all down, it really wasn't that big of a difference. And I think the difference here is it's one windy road, no matter which way you're going.
Yeah,
Right.
it is.
And it's something happens.
I think commuting, going north is a little easier because it's mainly on the lava, which is fairly flat. But going down south, there's a lot of people who live in Ocean View, and it's a long drive. It's a 50 minutes an hour drive, but the whole road is only 35 miles an hour. That's the speed limit, and it really is 35 miles an hour. It's not like you can do 60 on it, and so that takes a lot out of you just as well just driving.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, I have a friend that lives in Ocean View, and she is lonely as anybody because it takes so long to get to a city center that she doesn't do it. And so then she finds herself sitting in her house 5 days a week, wishing she had more community. So think about that when you're thinking about your lifestyle, but where you want to live. But also, if we were talking about this a little bit earlier, if you're retired, however,
Right.
and you're not commuting to work, and you're not trying to get your kids to school every day, some of these outer lying areas might be a good deal for you,
You
right?
can get more bang for your buck, yeah.
And-
You get down in Kona Paradise and have what would be $1 million view in California or Seattle. You can pick it up for 500,000 or 450.
Yeah.
And
Oh, go ahead. I think the other thing we need to think about also about this is maybe pull out even a little farther all around the different parts of the island.
Yeah.
And, there's all these great places to live that are not right here. But the question is, I think you need to kind of do a research because, example, like volcanoes usually cold and damp.
Yeah,
is what it
where's
is,
the
right?
fourth?
And-
Yeah.
right.
4,000 feet up.
4,000 feet, so it's one of the higher places. And same way with Waimea, too, is kind of the thing. So you kind of have to say to yourself, what kind of experience do I get? Hilo tends to have a little more weather, though you would notice it today. It's been this
I think we've had more
summer.
rain in Hilo this year.
It's
Yeah,
really
we-
bright and sunny.
That's the
in
reason
Hilo,
why I
right?
don't live in Hilo, because this is kind of a pain in the ass. But one thing that's nice about getting here and talking to people about the different parts of the island is that, as we laugh and say, there's a butt for every seat, right?
Mhm.
So if you like the rain, or if you like being up at elevation,
Yeah.
go, right?
Yeah.
But if you like being in the heat, and you like a good beach, or you like a good sunset with a glass of wine, I love West Hawaii.
Yeah.
So, but if you were to say, if you were coming and you're looking at price alone, people sometimes don't know why it's so less expensive
Right.
to live in Pahoa or Ocean View.
And so again, that has to do with lava zones is a big thing. So you need to, that has a big effect on it, because you can buy. We're in lava zone 4 here, and it's $200,000 for a 10,000 square foot lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you go down to Ocean View in lava zone 2, and you're only 45 miles away, but you are lava zone 2, and but you can pick it up for $15,000-$20,000 an acre.
Right.
So
But you have to almost pay cash. Or just can't you get
Yeah,
insurance on it, or the insurance?
insurance is higher. Insurance is about double, but honestly, if you are saving yourself $250,000, if you buy a $500,000 home here and you get the same thing in Ocean View for $250, because you're just paying for the materials, the land's cheap there, and you're paying double, so you're paying $2,000 a year for insurance versus $1,000 in here. That's a lot of years before you're upside down. So you're ahead of the game if the drive isn't the problem.
Yeah.
And you're not
Yeah.
commuting
And
to
the
work.
lava doesn't come.
And
I mean,
the
there are a
lava
lot of people.
doesn't come.
There are a
There's
lot
a
of
reason
people.
it's called lava zone too.
There was a big joke that that every the poor people in the Lilani Estates that that they were thinking that that it was going to be fine there, and all of a sudden, well, I mean they knew, but it just nobody was expecting it to be quite
Yeah.
like it did.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, in Leilani Estates, that it was a 50-year, it got run over by lava, and then 50 years it got run over lava again, right?
People get amnesia quick.
Yes, they get amnesia. And so at first I think those lots were going for 5,000, and then people started forgetting, and then they were going for 15,000, and then amnesia really set in by the time they were hitting 200,000, and then these people built their houses, and then
And then it
And
hit,
then it got
and they
hit.
knew it's a lava zone 1 or 2 over there. It was sad that it happened.
Yeah. But that's one thing that's nice about
700
living
homes.
on this side of the island is that unless Mauna Loa goes,
Right.
we're pretty safe. And then it's nice about being on the side of the island too is we don't get hit by hurricanes.
Knocking on
Okay,
wood. But
We've been
yeah,
here since 2005. We've never been hit by a hurricane.
we are no, I mean on the lava because
Oh,
it's
lava,
lava
yeah.
zone 4,
Yeah.
and you go out to Hawaii and stuff, and it's a
They're
lava
9.
zone 9,
Yeah.
and you go to Oahu or Maui, and there is no lava zones. But
Yeah.
once again, there's the price. The same home you buy here for 500 is 1.2
Right.
Yeah.
on those islands.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That's another thing too that I've had a couple people email me and say that and that's what we did too. Well, we thought, okay, let's go buy a house in Hawaii. Let's look at the housing prices, right? Oahu's nuts, Maui's crazy, right? And then you start looking at our island, and you go, that's actually affordable. Well, there's a reason why it's affordable.
yeah.
Right? We live on an active volcano, and not only is it like active like in Kilauea, but Mauna Loa and even Hawaii are not extinct volcanoes.
I'm going to add something real quick to those two because we had a house in Kailua on Oahu.
Uh-huh.
We never could have bought it if it wasn't something that came from the parents, my wife's parents, and we had added on to that, and we had it set. We were in Kailua on Oahu, and we came over here, and we were done. We just had to get here immediately.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the price. We had a place, and
Yeah.
so there's more that attracts people to the Big Island.
Yeah,
And the price.
particularly this island. Julie
Yeah.
knows all about it.
Yeah.
She has people all the time.
Yeah, obviously this has a spiritual energy that I don't think the other islands have. And a lot of people, and you guys who are watching this, either now or like in the future, if you've had that feeling where you get off the plane and you touch the tarmac and all of a sudden you get this strange feeling that you're home, that happens to people here where I don't see it happening in other islands. Where people feel like once they get here, they just want to get back and they are desperate to say, you know what, I gotta make Hawaii home. And then at that point, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter what the cost is.
It
You'll
doesn't
figure it
matter.
out.
They're coming.
We could be the
because-
most expensive island. It
Yeah,
would still
it's like
be
it's
the-
something that
Yeah.
draws them into their soul that says, I gotta make this place my home. So we deal with those people too. So okay, well then we've hit some different aspects of life, and if you guys have more questions, please go ahead and put those out there, and we'll cover them in future topics. And we're going to release this on YouTube. But we're also going to try and create more opportunities for people to learn more about what's it like to live here. And my daughter's waving her
Our
hand.
director's
More
waving.
questions.
Yeah, what's the question,
Questions?
Caleb?
We got a
You
few.
guys have a podcast.
Oh, this
Ah,
is
see, this is why we're doing this.
this is the test podcast. To see how it
Yeah,
works.
yeah, we're trying to make that happen. I know. Yeah, I know. This is 3 months of us saying we should have a podcast. But you know what? Hey, at least you can see our faces.
Well, it's
So,
a podcast with video.
Yeah, it's
There's
a
nothing wrong with that.
podcast with video.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're working on that. But if you guys like this concept, let us know because we'll do more of it, and then we'll get the microphone and we'll start doing a podcast.
Yeah.
So you guys are basically our test market for entrepreneurship here. So you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel and keep coming back for more, and let us know your questions, and we'll go ahead and answer them. And you guys, thanks for being here.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Oh. We have questions.
One more.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got
Julie,
all right,
question?
all right. One last question.
Are there any areas that maybe we should stay?
Away from.
Are there any areas that maybe we should stay clear of for housing?
See,
So that's the kind of questions that I can't answer.
Because these are
I
really
can't
And
answer
you're
it
real-
either.
So I'll tell you guys.
I think a big thing too, you guys should just add in just to look at crime statistics too.
Yes,
You
look
know,
at crime
I mean,
statistics.
Yeah.
we certainly have to tell the truth and talk about anything we know about an area, but we're not allowed to steer people away from an area like, oh, that's bad or that's good. Or
Right.
Well, it's not our point to do that.
Yeah,
Our point
yeah.
is just to point out the facts that are there.
the fact.
Right. But if you can
And
do some
100%
research.
give you honest truth.
Right. And just so you guys know that there are parts on this island that the reason why people live there when it's really less expensive is because they might be shady characters.
Wild, Wild West.
Yes.
But it's the beauty of the Big Island, though.
Yeah. Okay,
All right.
guys.
Aloha.
All right.